marijuana, it's almost just like putting the parking brake on any chance of success.
What do you think is the single greatest reason why people don't take that next step and implement the action?
I think people are asleep and they're numb. People are walking through life sort of like in a zombie-like state. They're plugged in on their phone, scrolling the algo 4 hours a day. They're drinking on weekends, and people don't realize this, but marijuana, it's almost just like putting the parking brake on any chance of success. Once a week, you're probably, you're not gonna get as many, like really the negative effects, but I did edibles every single night to sleep. And then only after like several months, I was not fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally depressed. Like it was just absolute depression. And depression in the sense where I just had like no motivation. And I just was like, this life is not worth living. Like like some people are extremely prone to depression from substances. And so it just destroyed my neurochemistry like nothing else.
Welcome everyone to the Beyond the Cover podcast. My intent with creating this podcast was to provide a platform where men can speak openly about their journeys with mental health without fear of judgment while doing so. While I, the host, or you, the listener, may not agree with everything or anything that a certain guest says for that matter, my focus is not to decipher what is right or wrong. Rather, it's to gain a better understanding of why somebody thinks and acts the way that they do. And with this understanding, we will begin to make better sense of our own lives and the world around us. So join me as we open the books into these men's journeys and dissect the pages within. Greg O'Gallagher, welcome to Beyond the Cover.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, hey, I'm really pumped to have you here as well, because for one, you've been a staple in the fitness industry for quite a long time. I actually think you came across my screen almost 3 years ago, I believe.
Okay, so I was late to hit your algo.
Well, because you've been in it for what? How many years now?
I was pretty on the scene in 2015. 2015 was when I was getting a lot of eyeballs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe I saw you then. I bumped my brain a lot when I played football. So maybe I think it was 3 years ago, and it was that long ago.
I've had some bad concussions, man. It is not fun.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I know you got to protect your brain, especially. I mean, and just being healthy and all that plays into it. And I've certainly been really hyper focused nowadays on biohacking and doing all these certain methods to basically turn back the time.
Yeah.
So I think I'm doing a decent job right now, which is nice. But yeah, no, you definitely, have popped up a few times. You're an absolute monster in the space. I mean, super, super successful. On the cover, for those that don't know, you're a fitness influencer, founder of Kino Body. Is that the way to say it? Okay, yeah. And so you have supplements that you sell. Do you do online training still?
We have an app that's launching, and my claim to fame was I wrote a few fitness programs. We had hundreds of thousands of people doing these programs. Yeah.
I saw some of your transformation photos and all that, and incredible, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I follow a lot of the ideologies that you practice, which is cool. And also too, I think again, you probably are aware that this shows that you have the influence, and maybe these numbers don't mean a ton, but they're still very impressive. You have 1.5 million followers on IG. 1.5 million followers on TikTok, and then 751,000 on YouTube. So you've built this massive audience. And it's definitely it goes without saying, but you're one of the biggest, names in the space. And so with that, I mean, when you see someone that has that level of success, I've learned that most times individuals like that have went through something pretty traumatic or very challenging that ultimately shaped them into a person that just has this unwavering resiliency to just keep pushing forward no matter what comes their way. And with you have one of those moments, which you do talk about openly, and I think it's extremely courageous. You lost your dad at 11 years of age. So, Greg, I want to ask you this to open up our discussion today, because I'm just curious. There's a lot of people that have lost loved ones in their life. I haven't lost anybody close to me, so I'm somewhat ignorant in this matter. But with all the success that you've had, how much of that do you attribute to your father? Do you feel that your world would be extremely different had he not passed?
It definitely would.
Okay.
My father accomplished a ton, and he was he at the time he built the biggest privately owned real estate portfolio in Canada, starting from nothing. And so I would have been under his wing, and I would have been wanting to, work at his company and be part of that. And it's hard to really pontificate and know how life would have gone if things were different. But I do know what changed. And I kind of felt like looking up to my father growing up, I was like, this is I have the best dad in the world. This guy is just, his accomplishments, his mentality. I was like, I'm going to be able to learn from him when I'm older. And when that was, when he passed away, there was this kind of this realization where I'm going to have to figure this out on my own. I'm going to have to, I didn't have that. I came from very, very successful family, but I never had the feeling that I was going to just have stuff handed to me. I knew if I wanted success, I was going to have to get it. And I remember reading business books at 12, 13 years old, which is kind of adorable. Like a 12, 13-year-old reading this book at night. I played video games too, but I was really into these.
I'm playing Mario while you're reading business books.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich was one of my father's favorite books, and I was reading that many times. And I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was just very young, and then investing books, and I just kind of felt like I got to figure this out. And eventually I had this sort of realization where my father, he chose real estate as his mechanism to build wealth. He was in sales. He was doing computer sales, and he got screwed over from his boss. He built this commission structure where he was very incentivized, and he ended up just selling a shit ton of computers. He just went to hospitals and just did huge deals, and then he got his boss ripped him off on commission, and then he ended up leaving that, and he had this thought, well, you know what, what's my mechanism going to be? Everyone needs a place to live. I'm going to get into real estate. And he was just a force. He went through a phone book. He was calling up all the doctors in a phone book. And he finally got to the letter L, and he got a guy on the phone, and he was able to get some money, and just people believed in this guy. But real estate was really his mechanism. And for me, without my father really in the picture, real estate didn't turn my crank. It didn't get me excited. And I knew I'm not going to be able to live up in that shadow. And I think one of the most important things that we do, right, if we want to create the best world possible, we need to identify what's our highest value. Me going into real estate as that being the thing I wake up and I'm thinking about, I'm excited about, isn't the path for me. But what I had, it was wild. At 12, 13, 14, I just had this insane interest in fitness. I wanted to lift weights at 13 years old. I wanted to be strong and powerful. Every weekend I would throw on a Bruce Lee movie, a Van Damme movie, or Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just love this idea that we can work out and gain muscle. We can eat right. I would look around. Even I had this moment when I was even 6. I asked my father, because I had a box of action figures, and I was like, can I ever look like this? And he said, yes, you can, Gregory. You just got to work out. Now, if you think about it, some people would be like, oh no, that's impossible. No, my father was like, anything you want to do, if you're willing to put the work in, you can have it. And I just would look around. I'm like, why are people not working out? Why isn't everyone doing this? You have an option. Like there's two paths. You can look freaking strong, lean, incredible, or not.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing this? And I wanted to crack the code to fitness, to strength, to being lean and powerful and looking good. And I was like, this is the road I want to go down. This is what I want to get into. And you know, I wasn't very driven by excess when I was a young adult. I wanted to do what I love, right? Really feel like I was making a difference. And like, if I could make 100K a year plus, anything more was gravy. And when I made the shift from training people in person and doing in person to online, my mind just blew open.
Yeah.
Because here I am like in Canada filming a video, and there's people like following these workouts and engaging with me all over the world. And now instead of me being able to influence and coach 20 people, I can influence 1,000 people, 100,000. It just almost felt like this unlimited potential when I reached online. And I was just like, wow, like this is amazing. And I some people are a little more don't like the attention, don't like the kind of like to, I liked it. Like I love just when I love something, I want to share it. Like when I was into internet, I wanted to share this. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care about hate or negative. Like I just want to put this out there. And so that's when like kind of my world was kind of, you know, opened up with my sort of mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And something you mentioned there again, I was curious because you've been under the spotlight for so many years with like millions of eyes on you. And I agree with you that you really have to just truly get out of your head and do something you love. And when you do something you love, you don't sit there and think before you post and say, how's this going to be received? You're just so excited to like be able to put it out there that you hit post. You're like, I can't wait for everyone to absorb this knowledge. It's going to be absolutely incredible with the amount of lives it'll change. And so that's really truthfully the right way to go about it, because I think it can eat you alive. I, came off TV, started getting a bit of exposure after nobody knowing who I was. And I was in my head with, all the time, how are people going to take this? And the second I saw a negative comment, I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't post this. And it's like, you're always going to find negativity anywhere you go, right? It's what you decide to place your focus upon that makes all the difference on whether or not you push forward or pull back.
And you know what was very interesting was that in high school and as a kid, I was extremely in groups and socially shy. So I was extremely shy in school, in groups, and I definitely had I never used any terminology, but I definitely had like social anxiety.
Yeah.
More so than I have 5 siblings, more so than any of my siblings. But then like with the camera and with like putting stuff out online, I felt so comfortable. So it was weird. I know people that are like really confident and like they love socializing and, in person, but then they don't like the online stuff scares them. So for me, I had like that opposite kind of thing where it's like shy in person and then totally like, willing to have attention online.
Can you explain that a little bit and dive into it? I mean, my assumption is that because I was introverted for a while until, and then I've kind of switched to extroverted, but I always feel in front of a camera, I'm like, does this make sense to put out a video? I mean, is this going to be helpful as opposed to just letting it go? When you were first in front of a camera as someone that had that social anxiety, did you see it as, well, right now it's just me and the camera, So I can film this confidently because I don't have a million eyes on me. It's not like I'm standing in an auditorium with 10,000 people looking at me right in this moment. It's like it's just me and the camera. So really, I still am alone in this moment. Therefore, I can't have anxiety. Was that how you?
That was definitely part of it, for sure. Like, it's just me and a piece of plastic, and it like it just it. And then again, like the online eyeballs, it's so far removed, right? It's also why, like, right now I could have hundreds of thousands of people using our products, but I still like to do a little bit of one-on-one mentorship, because you get that real human experience.
Yeah.
But the camera, I liked kind of creating content on the camera. But then, it is interesting then, because like, even when I was in high school, I had two different passions. I was very into, gym class. It's easy. Yeah. That was my favorite gym class, but also I like drama. And so like, I would be so shy in my school, really. But then if we were doing a skit, I was comfortable for some reason. So it's just this weird kind of, that's also why people tell me, hey, I'm not confident, I have low confidence. It's like, that's not true. There's something in your life that you have incredible confidence. Hey, if you're playing Call of Duty with your mic on and you're like ripping it, like, you're very confident. So confidence can kind of it can kind of be dependent on the experience, that you're in. I mean, I did some swimming with sharks. I wasn't confident swimming with sharks. I was not very confident.
You weren't caged in. You were out in the open.
Yeah, I was out in the open, but it wasn't like there was a possibility of tiger sharks coming, but there were no tigers. It was a bunch of lemon sharks.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So something interesting you just said there was one of your other passions was drama class. So you did some acting, I assume, like in that class, or played a character.
I did some. I mean, I've always liked acting. I never pursued it because my fitness stuff just was very, very clear, but that was definitely something that I didn't do any like theater, like plays in school. That was not my thing. But if I was forced to be in drama class, then I would do it and stuff. Yeah.
So my reason for asking that question is I am curious if the version of you that presents online, was there a point at which there was like, it was Greg, the fitness character? Like did you feel that from like the very beginning of your fitness journey that you were always putting out the 100% authentic version of yourself?
Right. So,
or could you also be that authentic version, or did you feel like sometimes you had to be a heightened version?
Yeah, it's actually very, very hard to be 100% authentic. So when I would watch my videos, when I would do videos very early on, I would literally sound like not myself. I'd be like, what's going on, guys? It's Greg Gallagher, Toronto top fitness coach. Like, I put on this shtick. And, over time you start to peel away at that and just be more real. I mean, I had a girlfriend at one point. We were in LA, and this is a long time ago, but she would tell me, she'd be like, you're sounding like you're not sounding like you. Yeah. And so to just be like, to have no variance in the when the camera's going and then yourself is hard, but over time it just you kind of get into that flow, and it feels definitely more natural and real. But I think the psychology of it is that like you almost feel like you need to do more, right? Oh, I'm on camera, I got to perform, I got to do more. You got to turn things up a notch. I think that's what it was for me. There's also this other angle where like, hey, like if I just put on this character, then the real me can't get rejected or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I just felt like I need to compensate, right? I need to, I'm camera, I gotta overcompensate. But you get through that, and then you just kind of realize like, no, your best content, and people can see, the audience can see, the best content is when you feel like you're absolutely just authentic. And it's interesting, right? Like if you do any sort of acting classes, what you realize is that in a scene, right, you want your emotions to hit. You want whatever emotions the character has, you want to feel that, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever you put on a shtick, the emotions don't kick in. You shut off like your emotional response because your brain knows you're acting. This isn't real. But so when you drop like the compensation, when you drop the trying to act and you do less, you just literally, that's it. You just do less. Then the emotions just come up.
Yeah.
It's very, very, like, for example, like if there was a scene and I was going to be freaking pissed off at you, and so my natural instinct is to seem angry, then it's bullshit and I'm not going to feel angry.
Yeah.
But if my natural instinct is to hold in the anger, then it kind of comes out because that's how we are. We don't try and we go through life, we try and hold our emotions in, not just exaggerate them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always been this suppression of emotion, especially amongst men, around our age. I don't know as far as like how you were raised, but I grew up in a household where all boys. I played football. There was this sense of, just go hit somebody hard if you're angry or upset, and don't show emotion because that's weakness. And that's where, again, I think there's the reasoning for my question on the authenticity portion is because it feels like to me, and I've been in it not as long as you have, but that there's this balance between striking a balance between the kind of fake it till you make it, as in like exaggerate, because I can say like, hey guys, it's Clayton here, or like, hey guys, Clayton here, and all of a sudden like that high emotion, people go, whoa, and it may pull through push through the camera, or they all of a sudden go, oh, and they tune in, right? It's like there's an element of it that can work with that extreme emotion. But I love how you're saying that over time you just started to kind of settle into your authentic self, and now that's the version of you that you get to be, and it's why it's received very well.
Right. And make no mistake, like there's no excuse to be boring. Like you can't be in like a dopey kind of mood. Like you got to have that spark, that je ne sais quoi. But when you're passionate, you're living within your highest values, you're uninhibited. So you don't want to put on a shtick, but you also don't want to be kind of inhibited. So but like when you're just being like dialed, then like you don't need to add the extra stuff. But if you're but you can't just be like soft and boring and shy. So it's like you need to have that spark. Yeah,
absolutely. You mentioned a little earlier about people finding their highest value. How does somebody go about that, or at least how did you go about finding that? Take me through kind of the mindset of how you got to that place of going, fitness is it.
Well, yeah. So I never really used the terminology highest values until I started to, I do a lot of, I'm always trying to learn from different people and stuff if I can. If I can, just kidding. No, but so there's a guy, John DeMartini, and he kind of calls it your highest values, recognizing your highest values. So I always called it like your passion, right? But highest value, I think, is more meaningful. And so it's sort of, if you were to look at your life, what are the things you really care about? Where do you put most of your time and energy? What are most of your goals based on? What are the things you like to learn about? And who are the people you like to learn from? And so then you start to see, okay, it's very clear. One of my highest values is being really lean, fit, healthy. Like that's going to always be an important value of mine. One of my highest values is, it's up there. It's not number 2, but it's like, I love film. I love movies. If I can, I'll watch a movie every night before bed. And so I love film. It's just like, it's part of my life. And so when you can recognize your highest values, then you can really build your life around these highest values. And then you also, what you can do is you can start to get to a point where you can delegate low value tasks and things. And it's funny because you have to audit your life. You have to audit your life. If you're not careful, you end up being a leaf in the wind, and you're like, why am I going out to the bars and clubs every weekend, drinking, feeling hungover, and I don't even like, I don't really, you just kind of get stuck going through the motions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to audit your life and be like, look at where your time is spent. Is this giving me an ROI? Am I fulfilled doing this? And you start to readjust your life in a very, very fulfilling way. So it's easy to think, okay, life is just, get a girlfriend, start relationships, go to the gym, make money. But there's also so much more to that, right? There's so much more. What are you going to be doing in your spare time? How are you starting your day? Who are the people you hang around? And so you want to just craft the most awesome life for you, right?
Yeah.
Or for the listener. You want to build the best life for Chris, right? So that takes a lot to like audit that and to really put that together.
Yeah.
And so, I probably 3-4 years ago, my life was literally so unoptimized for building the life for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. You say you call it auditing. I think it's a form of mindfulness, which
Right.
is really, it's about taking a step back and saying, okay, here's what my life is. Where do I want it to go? And then ultimately, how do I get to that place? So, okay, somebody does that and they basically they step back and they're mindful and they go, okay, here's where I want to go. But I would say a lot of people do that and then that portion of it and then never make it any further. I have my own beliefs. What do you think is the single greatest reason why people don't take that next step and implement the action from the thought?
As far as like pursuing like a goal, a business, or just like building a better sort of life for themselves. And
yeah, I would say just creating change. I mean, yeah, okay, this is my current job. I work a 9 to 5. I don't love it, but it pays the bills. I would love to be over in this realm, and doing this would make me the most happy. And I'm aware of that. Okay. But not, I don't know. I don't want to take any further action. Like there's this discomfort.
I think people are asleep and they're numb. And it's very hard to make a change when you're asleep and numb.
So yeah, elaborate on that for me. Like how have they gotten to that state?
People are walking through life sort of like in a zombie-like state. They're plugged in on their phone, scrolling the algo 4 hours a day. They're drinking on weekends, and when alcohol, you can drink a little bit, but you have to be careful because it can derail your neurotransmitters like nothing else. Where on a weekly basis, you might not have one day of genuine mental clarity. Mm-hmm. Their diet is off. They're not getting enough natural sunlight. Like if you can actually just optimize for a very, very healthy life, a lot of things work out.
Yeah.
When you get your sleep dialed, you get, natural light in the sun. You have your nutrition dialed, you're training, you're getting your steps in, you're sleeping well, you're not drinking much, you're not using, people don't realize this, but marijuana is probably one of it's almost just like putting the parking brake on any chance of success. It is very hard to become successful if you're smoking weed every night. It's very, very rare that someone just smokes weed every couple of weeks. It very quickly becomes a daily habit for most people, and it blunts your dopamine. It makes it turns down the excitement and the ambition in working hard and success. To work hard or to achieving a goal requires a lot of hard work, and there's a big time lapse between the work and the reward. Mm-hmm. So you have to actually, it's not like an instant reward. You got to be putting in, like, to see changes with your body, it's weeks and weeks and weeks of effort and months to get that result. So when you blunt that dopamine, those dopamine receptors, you lose that drive.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people smoke weed too much, and it just handicaps them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, it definitely, in the moment, I think it upregulates your dopamine when you're high, but then basically what it does is it kicks you into overdrive. So then you come crashing down, and now you're at a massive deficit with dopamine. Yeah. So now you have no motivation because dopamine plays into that, motivation in itself. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that overdo it. So they're constantly in this altered state. Therefore, they're never just in their natural state as healthy as they can be. So I mean, it's interesting. I should probably do more research into myself. I mean, I'll usually like smoke about once a week or once every
Yeah.
couple. I mean, I do that. I got to a point where I started to do 2, 3, and I was like, okay, this is too much. And I realized that my productivity started to nosedive.
Yeah, and it's not something like once a week. You're probably you're not going to get as many like really the negative effects. But I did edibles every single night to sleep, and I especially like picked up that habit during like Canada had the worst lockdowns.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did that in Canada, and then I was fine. And then only after like several months I was not fine.
Mhm.
And I was literally depressed.
Yep.
Like it was just absolute depression. And depression in the sense where I just had like no motivation. And I just was like, this life is not worth living. Like like some people are extremely prone to depression from substances. And so it just destroyed my neurochemistry like nothing else. And people are talking about it a lot more, where sometimes if someone comes to a psychologist and they have depression, it's actually becoming more common for them to recommend take 30 days off marijuana. Mm-hmm. And even take 30 days off alcohol. Let your natural brain reset. But yeah, there's people that are successful. And I got by with weed for a while, and then until I just didn't. Yeah. And yeah, you get that dopamine hit when you smoke weed, which makes you feel good. But over time, it blunts those dopamine receptors. Yeah. And then you see people that are very avid pot smokers. Like I actually remember, when you do it enough, the idea of watching a movie without weed is kind of flat. So you just you get a little you get a bit of happiness, you feel a little bit better, but then over time, the feeling you get from weed is maybe just as good as you naturally felt before. Yeah. And now your baseline is lower. Mm-hmm. And so it's like talk about famous the goose. It is a famous the goose. Yeah. It is but again, if you can do it once every 2-3 weeks, then that's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think again, it's life is a balance typically in general, and so you have to be mindful though of, am I using this? Is this a crutch? Is this something I become reliant upon? If the answer is no, then it's like, okay, hey, maybe I'm just doing this. For me, you typically do it just to decompress. I have ADHD brain. My mind races a million miles a minute, which I think is a superpower. But every so often I'm like, I just want to shut my mind down. Yeah. And I know that it's like, well, if I do this, I'm going to order pizza. I'm going to sit in my house. I'm going to relax, versus the alternative scenario that I might go out to the bars with friends. And then who knows, my night ends up being 3 hours longer than I wanted. I had a couple drinks and I'm like, because I don't want to just sit here and do nothing. And so it's like, it's the balance. It's the trade-off in life. You know what's
an amazing alternative to weed?
What's that?
Getting a weekly massage. And I mean, look, not everyone can do that, but get a girlfriend, get a girlfriend,
I'm working on that one.
But but the weekly massage, oh my God, like
deep tissue, I'm guessing.
Yeah, deep tissue, like has to be like hard, but like after that, you just feel better than any time you've ever smoked any weed. Your mind is like relaxed, you feel present. Your stress is gone, and actually improves. So you can actually get a 40% increase in dopamine from a massage. Mm-hmm. So it actually naturally improves dopamine, and it lowers stress, increases oxytocin. So it's like when you go through life and you're stressed and you're tight and you're lifting and you're doing all this stuff, like you need to have, like that's yang energy, right? Pushing your body, lifting is yang. You need the yin. Mm-hmm. And so like if you can do some massage, that's a way better alternative to getting high. Yeah. And again, you might think about it, well, I can't afford to get like a $200 massage. Well, cut out the weed and very quickly you'll have that more zest, that pep in that step, the je ne sais quoi, and you'll make that money before you know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say, I mean, every time I get a deep tissue massage, I'm probably the most relaxed I've ever been, which is also how I feel when I smoke. It's like, okay, I get this deep relaxation.
And you sleep well. You sleep
incredible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're getting a lot of that. Just you're getting good circulation back through the body to remove some of that waste material that's pent up, that's just tight from whatever. It could be just overuse with working out or day to day, just walking on your feet, and your calves are tense, and so you're just releasing a lot of that stress, which again just like helps lower the rest. If that's physical stress, then you're also, it's just lowering down that level. So now everything seems more manageable.
Yeah. Or even like, cause I have that too, where like my mind is racing. I'm really, really excited about something. I have a hard time shutting down. It's like, it's hard when you live in a city, but if you can get into nature, it's so much more calming.
Yeah.
I remember even in Miami, at night, I'll walk out to the beach and you look at the ocean, you feel like the just this power of the ocean. You look up and, you look up the sky, you see some stars, and it just kind of has this incredibly calming effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. Those are two really great things you can do. People can right now, especially go out and look at the ocean if you're by the ocean, or look at the stars, just get out in nature. I mean, that's free.
Yeah.
So
go to a park even,
Yeah. Just because everything does slow down in those moments when you just sit there and you're just present in that moment. You're like, all I'm focused on is just what's right in front of me. So as an expert in the fitness industry, for those that are listening, if I had to ask you right now, what is one major misconception that you see in the fitness space that right now you could say, hey, like here's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of people are misguided on, and if I could help reorient you all, here's what I would tell you.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the misconceptions that I was very adamant at solving have already sort of been accepted, right? So people 10 years ago, people thought fasting was bad. Now everyone's like, oh, fasting's good. I'm fasting, or my friend's fasting. Before, it was very, very like anti-carbs. Now people are realizing like you need a balance. But I'd say the biggest thing really that would have the most impact for listeners is that the idea you do not need to work out as much as you think. To build an amazing body, you do not need to be in the gym 2 hours a day. You can lift weights 45 minutes, 3 days per week, and walk and get everything you need to build the absolute best body you possibly could. Literally, that's it. Lift heavy weights, strength train, push hard for a personal record 3 days a week, and walk. That's all the exercise you need to look as amazing as possible. And so it's amazing when you realize, you know what? That's manageable. I can fit that in. It's not a compromise. It's not like, oh, you can't work out that you're very busy, so just do 3 days and you'll get still good results. No, the absolute best you can look only requires 3 days in the gym. And then obviously just, you can't sit down for 18 hours a day. You need to walk, you need to move, you need to get your steps in to support fat loss. But that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I grew up being taught that, okay, you want to get bigger and have more muscle, then you got to spend more time in the gym. It's just like the law of diminishing returns wasn't really often spoken about. It was just like put in more effort and therefore you get more of a reward. But you can get to that place of overtraining, which is my understanding is it's really hard to get to that point to overtrain, but it's possible. But I mean, I'm down to
for me, it's honestly just like to get bigger, to gain muscle, what do we need to do? We got to achieve progressive overload. We got to get stronger. We got to, if you're lifting the 70-pound dumbbells on incline dumbbell press, of course you're not going to be jacked. Of course you're not going to have muscle. So we got to get you strong. We got to hit personal records, add reps, add weight, get you from 70s to at least 90s over the next, 4 months, 4 to 6 months. And so in order to do that, like I found my experience has been when I train a lot and I'm in the gym 4 or 5 days a week and I'm doing many sets and many different exercises, I just don't get stronger. I just don't get stronger. Like beyond that beginner kind of stage, I'm in the gym all the time, but I'm lifting the same weights. And so I realized when I just stripped down to a lot less and every set was like, okay, we're going in here for a reason. We're going in here to do 8 reps because last week we did 7. I just started hitting PRs, getting stronger, getting bigger. And so I just recommend anyone test it. Like make the metric your key lifts. If you want to get bigger, and now what we're realizing is that the calorie surplus is really not even needed for muscle growth. If you're eating maintenance calories, that's all you need to gain muscle. If you think about it, humans, we evolved to need muscle, right? To handle environment, to handle tension, to lift heavy loads. And throughout evolution, there wasn't really that much time where we had huge amounts of surplus calories. And so we can build muscle without eating a huge surplus. And so if you make the goal, your key lifts, we got to get stronger on an incline press, a weighted pull-up, a squat, a Bulgarian, whatever. Get strong on those key lifts, see what works better. I recommend people test it. Test the lower volume approach, test the higher volume, and see where you make the greatest strength gains. But that's sort of been my experience, that the more I do, and look, I like lifting, and it's fun to do a lot of movements and to exercise and stuff. So I just follow my sort of greatest gains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I have still to this day, I have a workout journal where I write down what I do in 1 week, and then every day I just try to maybe add 1 rep, or maybe I add 5 pounds after a couple weeks. And it's just, when you're mindful of that, you don't just go in, all willy-nilly into the gym without purpose. You go in there and you say, okay, here's what I did last week. Here's what I'm going to try to do, to attempt to do today. So just those small little minute changes.
And regardless of whatever training system you're following, right? There's lots of different training systems that can produce solid gains. Mm-hmm. The most important thing you do, I would rather someone do a shitty program, but write stuff down and track it, than do the best program but not track it. And you'll get better results on a bit of a shittier program. Yep. The tracking it is non-negotiable. It is not, unless you've just already hit your goal and now you're maintaining and whatever. But when you're trying to achieve, there's nothing more important than tracking. And if I go into a gym, I'd be lucky if there's 80 people in the gym, I'd be lucky to even see one person that's tracking. Like I will be impressed. No wonder people aren't getting results. They're not even tracking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And tracking is another form of mindfulness. So it all kind of comes back together. And so, Greg, I want to leave you with this last question, because of everything that you've accomplished. What is it that you're most proud of?
I would say that I'm most proud of really building a new framework, right? So, for a long time, people that wanted to build muscle, get lean, they'd go do low carb, eat small meals every 5 hours, go follow this. And I just kind of put together a new framework, and we've had like hundreds of thousands of people that have paid and joined programs, but millions of people that have utilized some of these tips. And so just the ability to hit that critical mass and share something that's sort of, hey, you know what? If you failed eating small meals all the time, and trying to eat a strict clean diet, here's my system. I fast. I eat some, I do this amazing keto collagen, Greek yogurt, sliced banana, fruit bowl during the day with a Rice Krispie square. I eat my steak, potatoes, broccoli for dinner, and I have some cookies at night. Mm-hmm. Like, people are like, wait, I can do that. And so just giving people that felt disenfranchised, that failed, that couldn't stick to other programs, a new framework and inspiring that, and them doing it and getting great results and being like, wow, I can be fit for life. I'd say that has to be the thing that I'm, most proud of. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're giving people hope and a belief that fitness can be fun. You don't have to sacrifice all the tasty meals. There's that balance there. And a bit of freedom, which again helps people that say, well, I followed something restrictive. It was so hard. I can't do that for a lifetime. But you're showing, hey, you don't have to be that restrictive. We can find the thing that works for you. And so I love it that what you're most proud of is really just inspiring thousands of people, as many as you can, to provide them and give them hope that they can change their life.
And awesome. And thank you. And I'm all about like getting amazing results. And it's like, look, none of the stuff I'm telling you that's a lifestyle thing is a compromise. Yeah. As long as you hit your calories, get your protein in, you're tracking your lifts, you're getting your steps in, then we're already getting 100% of the results that are on the table. Having some cookies at night does not slow down your progress as long as we fit that in, get enough protein, eat nutritious foods. So it's kind of empowering to be like, okay, wow, so I can do this and get maximum results. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Greg, everything you shared today was absolutely incredible. Again, your vulnerability was awesome. You giving great advice for people that, want to start creating change in their life. Certainly you're an individual that can help them in many realms, fitness being one of them. So let's say for anyone here that's listening or watching today, they say, hey, I want to go ahead and take a chance and start up this program. Which platforms? I know again you're on all of them. Is there one platform that's the best for someone to sort of like first dive in and get to know you?
Yeah, I'm the most kind of active and like, in real time on Instagram. So
Okay.
that's at Gregor Gallagher. I'm active on the stories and posts. And I would just recommend just for someone just to absorb my content for a couple weeks. And then just, if there's something that captures your attention and you want to go down a program, then go for it. But just absorb as much content as you can and see if like it definitely excites you, and then make a choice from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.